Take one, full blast, here we go. Thank you everybody for the massive response on the 300th episode. Now we're at 301 and we begin anew our journey forward into the seas of the imagination. Welcome back. Artist Journal, February 21st, 2024, broadcasting from the image generator deep in my nervous system. Fresh from the gym. Brain on full blast here. My name's Adrian Pocobelli. Almost on full blast here. I thought to myself as I was walking across Alexanderplatz to the gym that I go to, the People's Gym there, FitX, and I was thinking to myself, it's an easy decision. It's a very easy decision as I thought of this image in my mind by LB that I had looked at before I made my way to the gym there, and it's just an awesome image. How collectible is this? I thought to myself. And it is just a delightful image. It's got the poetry. Because why? Is it the technique? The technique's pretty rad. You know, to quote Hasdrubal Waffle, the technique is pretty rad. Like what do we have here for technique? Again, so this is LB. And just before we minimize it, and we're going to re-expand this, and actually maybe we zoom in. Can we zoom in? Awesome. This part right here might be my favorite. This little, I don't know if that's like Alpha Centauri or just whatever, but these little stars there were particularly poetic. I am tired of Earth. Of course, this is LB's adventure where LB references the, pop culture. And let me just show you this. And it's going to be an enormous show, by the way. So I may go kind of fast because, we have a space in 2.5 hours and there's actually a small concern in my mind. So all to say, we're going to go fast here. We're classic imagery. This is called LB's Adventure, the series. All massive hits, in my opinion here. This is like an album where every song is awesome, where classic imagery is reimagined through the nostalgic lens of Mario Paint on the SNES, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. The first was magical, and it's interesting, actually. Let me bring it up quickly here. The Return, and of course Twin Peaks, one assumes this was it screams like I think it was the last episode of Twin Peaks, which I only saw once 25 years ago, so I don't totally remember it. But doesn't that look like Kyle, the detective there? And then that's Laura, is it Laura Palmer? I don't know if that's exactly what happened. And there's almost the LB figure, the Super Nintendo. The sun is coming out. The sun is coming out. This is a big deal in this neck of the woods here in Berlin, Germany. So all to say, a beautiful, there's so many things going right in this series, and it doesn't need to be, painted like Leonardo da Vinci here. When thinks of Hasdrubal Waffle, it doesn't, and it's not to say there's not technique here. It's actually quite beautifully done. Probably one assumes there's a reference either on another layer, but it's on the SNES, so it maybe is just beside, and maybe that works even better. We think of mech.txt, who has the image beside, right? The reference or the source image beside oftentimes. So, The Return, great title too. There's so many great things. This series is so beautiful. And there are so many things that are working in it. It's got the retro pop culture imagery that so many people can relate to, which is a very important thing with art is, being able to relate to it. The more you relate to it, the more you feel like this is something that speaks to you. This is something that affects you, right? There's the nostalgia. There's like the Twin Peaks, the fun pop culture references, not all of which I, even know. I guess this is the Hokusai wave with, the LB figure with the Super Nintendo face there, surfing it. So I guess that's what's going on here. Again, and what a beautiful rendition here. And this last one, of course, to me screams Watchmen. Doesn't it? That blue guy in The Watchmen, sitting on Mars, contemplating all the big issues at the time. Now, just on a technical level, I mean, this is what's so interesting about this series for me. Because of the setup, right? Super Nintendo, classic pop culture imagery, also the Super Nintendo being a retro tool, kind of, putting it kind of in that glitch kind of, category of sorts. Alan Moore, which we're going to look at in a second here. There's so much going on here in the setup that, in a sense, it's hard for LB to screw this up, I would almost say. But he does a masterful job. So not only is the setup brilliant here, we got the spotlight. Nature's spotlight is directly on us today, my friends. We are doing something right here. So not only is the setup brilliant, it's hard to screw up, but then actually the execution, I have to say, is quite beautifully done. And even the nice touch here with what looks like the, Super Nintendo face, the LB character face here, but in blue, in a bit of a darker blue too. And look at this beautiful patterning here. And so not only is there that, but then LB, of course, who makes mostly analog video glitch works, in other words, processed through old video gear, adds the final stroke, so to speak, and puts this really cool image made on Super Nintendo Mario Paint, and then does the final stroke here, and then puts it through the process, combining, exporting, another major, you might say, structural characteristic of digital art. You can export. I mean, can you do that? Yeah, theoretically with your canvas, you can take a picture and then theoretically you can screen print. So there are, but it's not quite as, simple, so to speak, as going, okay, I got a JPEG as an output. Now let's put it into the analog video glitch process. So this endless remixing, so to speak, this endless processing, I call it to a certain degree, I call it mastering. At the end, it's like music. At the end of the process, what do you do? The final tweaks, I'll often, change the background color a little bit. Maybe I'll do the final kind of edit. Hi-fi edit, I call it mastering. Here, it's more of just another step in the process, adding a step to great effect. And now, when you put it all together, this brilliant setup, I wanted to say genial setup here, when you put it all together, you get poetry. So no, it doesn't need to be, it's about the setup. It doesn't, and I don't want to say, it doesn't need to be like you have the most brilliant shading on the eye and your technical ability as a draftsperson. The draft is actually quite beautiful here, but it's the setup is so powerful that it's hard to screw this up. But then LB did a masterful job on top of the brilliant setup. So this is powerful art. Now, just another interesting, as we think of the minds of artists here, there's not a ton of work here considering how long this, and how popular this is. And I mean, it started in June of 2023. It's a very popular series. They all sell out right away. They're pretty expensive on secondary from what I can see here. Look, the cheapest of the ones you can get is that first one for $70. Editions of 15. So popular works, they sell out immediately, or at least within the first day. I put in an offer there. There's none available. LB has to. We'll see if it goes through. I understand if LB doesn't want to take that because LB can probably get 10 times that for that work. But I do have the other 4, so my inner collector is privately praying. But all to say, the final thing I want to mention on this, which is LB mentioned. There was a tweet that LB put out maybe 3 or 4 months ago, maybe actually 5 months ago. It was kind of I think, when the second one came out. And LB was saying, I'm not sure what to think of what it means when this new series that I'm doing, which is different from my kind of video glitch work, when it's kind of totally outselling all this other work that my heart and soul is into, I'm not sure what to think of that, which is maybe why there aren't so many, right? Because LB's kind of like, no, I'm doing this thing. And it's a kind of an interesting, thing. Again, it kind of harkens back to our discussion on artists not necessarily being the best judges of their own work. And I think of myself, and not to speak of LB specifically here, but it kind of does bring this idea that the market might have different opinions about what you do well than you do. And then so it creates a bit of a dilemma for artists to a certain degree if your kind of heart and soul are wrapped up in this idea that I'm going to do this and this is going to be my testament here that I'm leaving behind. And then the market's going, well, actually, we love this thing that you just did like really casually. And, there's all to say there's often irony in these sorts of things. And creativity, again, there's no rules, and the market, so it's just a very interesting dynamic is what I wanted to highlight here. So incredibly poetic work. So of course, now for those that don't know the reference here, maybe if I do a search on this quote, we'll get the exact image. So look at that image there, and of course, here's the image. So here's the guy, and of course David Gibbon, the great artist of The Watchmen there, and here is maybe a little fragment, and of course, this great character here on this famously, probably something like this was the reference there. Kind of looks like it, doesn't it? Let's go back and see if it's the same pose, and then we'll move on here into our 150 tabs that we probably have open here. It is. It kind of looks like the same pose, doesn't it? From that kind of a darker blue, interestingly, and again, that beautiful glitch really adds to it. So all to say, very cool. So that comes from The Watchmen, which of course is by Alan Moore. We've never, actually, I'm sure I've mentioned Alan Moore on this show inevitably, but maybe not for a while. And just, Alan Moore's an interesting character, and I think he relates to our scene. Because look at, because what is Alan Moore doing? Alan Moore is using a medium that is not necessarily taken that seriously in the big game, as we were discussing, comic books. And then, like, is this, quote unquote, high-end literature of the greatest kind that we can put beside epic poetry? No, comics were always kind of, diminished, especially when Alan Moore started. Which was when Swamp Thing, maybe 1980, is when he got his start. He took a big risk, by the way. I can't remember what interview. It's been probably 15 years since I read the interview. Probably when I was in Montreal, I remember reading an interview. He gave up he took a massive risk. I think he quit his job to do this, to write comics. Like he took I think he had a baby that had just come. He took a massive risk, in a sense, something I wouldn't recommend to a certain degree. Many people wouldn't, but nevertheless, he did this and he pulled it off. And had he not taken that giant risk, we probably wouldn't be discussing him right now, and our show would have started differently. So, there's something to be said for, the tarot card, the Fool. It's jumping off the cliff. That being said, you can end pretty badly, and that's part of the whole tonic of that. So all to say, there's almost too much to say, but what I wanted to say about Alan Moore here is how it relates to us is let's look at perhaps mediums that aren't necessarily taken that seriously. We might think of this, what LB's doing, as high art and extremely poetic and significant, but the larger world may still, like, outside of the bubble here, may not really be relating or understanding, frankly. They might still see, like, okay, this is with some kind of crappy old software, what's the big deal here? And in a sense, there's a similar situation going on, one could argue, with Alan Moore in comics, right? Taking this kind of dismissed medium from a big game intellectual perspective, and then applying, learning. He did his homework, Alan Moore. And then applying the thinking of the big game to this humble medium here. And I think it's a really interesting lesson here for what we're up to as we work on our phone or work on our Super Mario or work with our kids programs like Hasdrubal Waffle. But if you're kind of doing your homework, many incredible things can still be said. It's still a visual medium. Look at how many layers there are to LB's work. So all to say, we don't have a ton of time, but I don't know if there's actually too much else. I mean, again, like I worked in a comic store, so it's hard for me to move on from Alan Moore here. The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I actually owned this Lost Girls, a first edition. I never read it. Hilariously, I always meant to read it. It was supposed to be pretty important. I think that's in Toronto in a few books at the place I used to live that a friend lives in now. Anyway, all to say, there's almost too much to say here. But I think I've said what I want to say about Alan Moore. Again, working with humble mediums, you can still say big things. And here, so again, maybe the one last thing I would say on Alan Moore is Promethea. Promethea, I don't even see here, is one of the greatest comic experiences. I actually read this too, Alan Moore's Writing for Comics. And Promethea is actually, I do recommend finding that. It's just an incredible experience of comics. I think that came out around, even I think Image Comics, and he didn't care. Speaking of being multi-chain, he tried all sorts of different publishers. He's kind of like the original multi-chain guy. He wasn't just DC Comics. He went around. I don't know if he ever did Marvel, interestingly. I don't know if he ever did Marvel. That is an interesting question, but he did like Image Comics. He even wrote like for Rob Liefeld, who was kind of another dismissed kind of artist who was with Image Comics. Anyway, I don't want to go too long on this. People come for the NFTs here. I think he wrote a few issues of Spawn, but back to this mentality, and here, just finally here, a really profound way he began this is, don't worry about fame, he said. Easy for him to say, getting all this money and everything and doing really well and people speaking well of Alan Moore. But he did have a very memorable beginning to writing for comics where he said, don't worry about fame. In 5,000 years, nobody's going to know anything about anything, basically. Like, this is all going to disappear. None of it matters. And that was actually quite a poetic statement. Again, easy for him to say, but nevertheless, thought-provoking, shall we say. Let's continue here. So Rune Toon, Sky Goodman had something else that came up. We're going to reschedule Sky Goodman. So Rune Toon is going to talk about his trip to Asia, which we were meaning to do anyway. We're going to do it the hour before Sky. We had to delay, so we're going to reschedule with Sky, and then we're going to hear about in depth of Rune Toon's experience seeing the Harold Cohen show in New York as well, that AI artist at the Whitney, or early AI artist, or working with pen plotters of sorts. I guess we'll find out exactly what Harold Cohen was up to from Rune Toon. So, and then we're going to hear about a pretty in-depth, sounds like a really interesting trip there to Thailand and Vietnam with all sorts of interesting things happening. So that is coming up today. This may be uploading while it's happening, but every Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. New York time, or 3:30 in Central European time, we do that show. I may start to live stream it, by the way. Putting back on the entrepreneurial hat here, I figure that's just another low-hanging fruit, easy win. Why not live stream the spaces? I don't know if I'll do it today, but maybe next week, and just start to, because that's just like another, could be interesting. Maybe I'll get like an arm for the mic here so we can get the mic, all to say. Anyways, big plans. Check out the spaces on Wednesday. Some comments on last episode, and thank you again for all the congratulations here. So, Daedalus Zeus, congratulations on 300 episodes. Thanks for all you have done to the space. for the space, this was a really, like, one of the nicest comments I've ever gotten. Teaching incidentally, but intentionally about the history and movements of art and how they relate to new works, which really is, the first thing you say here is really kind of, I would say, largely kind of the mission of this program, which is contextualizing what we're seeing within the tradition. So I'm glad you put that first. Highlighting artists doing significant things, indeed, following the thread of developments of a set of artists. Yes, the different software techniques, mediums, tools, methods, and approaches that different artists use in their works. Appreciating in an open and honest way art which itself should not be overlooked, gathering together a community of talented artists into a cohesive dialogue about the meaning of art today. And those artists also, the community itself deserves credit for that as well. Like joining a conversation, so to speak, posing challenges, questions about the implications for the future of new technologies, such as the role of AI or the blockchain, techniques of being marketable. Indeed, the alpha, the good call on ordinals quite early on, for example, and finally not forgetting the appreciation of physical art and traditional art. So in other words, creating, and I love this word here, a synoptic view of the art world in general today with a grounding in digital art. Thanks again. Just a beautiful comment, and thank you. That's like, if this was a book, that would be the quote I'd want on the back of the book. Just a beautiful comment. Thank you, Daedalus Zeus. And I love that word synoptic. Makes me think of Plato there. Having a synoptic view is having a multi-level view. Syn, S-Y-N, I think means with. So kind of a all-encompassing, comprehensive view of what's going on. Brilliant comment there. PP Universal. Poco, congrats for the 300 shows. Hope you can grow in any sense possible. And thanks again for all the work you do. Also, the title is 3 types of different foods. So PP's work, I think with the fighter planes in it. Ceviche, raw seafood, entraña, and lomo are 2 cuts from Argentina, cow meat, and they're legendary for their meat. And thanks for the feature. I went to a Sicilian restaurant. That was actually the best, I know not everybody's a meat eater, but that was the best meat I think I've ever had, was in Sicily. Yeah, I need to go back to that place. I'm going back to Sicily in April or early May. Okay, continuing on, Human Boy, congrats on 300, really huge. And I think some really great ideas for growth. Thank you. I'll make sure to join the community and newsletter, and I'm just absolutely thrilled. We're going to look at the community in a second here. Thank you for getting things started there, Human Boy, as well. And thank you for joining the newsletter, everybody who did. I think this shows up now. If you want to join, sign up to the newsletter, and here's the X community. So super cool if you want to sign up to those. And you just want to make them, again, just starting slowly like this program, and hopefully they just become better and better and better. Kyle Flemmer, thank you for the comment. Demon Ego, big congrats. Thank you for creating this series and devoted 300 times countless of your times to it. You've created something unique. Thank you. Ariel Presti, congratulations. Thank you. Iconolator, great Santiago new work. He's bringing a lot more texture and variation to his large abstractions. Indeed, we're going to see another one today. They are very interesting indeed. Fedor Jurecki, recently discovered your channel, love your content. I've always been looking for a podcast kind of thing about modern art and finally found this great stuff. Can you suggest, how do I promote my work? How do I get into your video? I'm just starting at art. Would love to hear any advice from you. Well, there's actually a very, this is how you do it, and this is for everybody. Simply go to the community here. The way to get it kind of in front of people's eyes, the easiest way to get your art in front of people's eyes is just join this community. When you click on this, it's totally open. And here you'll see it's the Artist Journal community, and there's Uxing. Awesome, right? You can share links, share news. There's Ellie Lowe. We're going to look at this in a second, actually. And I found out about an airdrop. And I actually got the airdrop. We're going to talk about that in a second. So all to say, click on this link here and post your work. That's how you do it. So there is a way. Also, let me just, and we're going to see that Gogolitis work later, a little foreshadowing there. And finally here, so that is how you do it, Fedor. So welcome to the program here. Coach Kyoto, the best as always. Thanks for the show and a lot of pretty nice works. I bought one, I think. Hilarious, great. Kelly Burns, 300, excellent stuff. And thank you, Kelly, for your support along the way. It is noted. Static Drama, what a start. Congrats. Yes. Yes, I get good comments about the start of this show. And yeah, that is from listening to a lot, probably too much talk radio, but I guess it went somewhere. Also, comments here, and what a huge response. 20,000 views in under 2 days there. Which is awesome. Got my hands on 2 brilliant artworks, thanks to you. Thank you, Super City, Shapey. Thank you. And again, post in the community anything, because you know what I'm doing is when I'm putting the show together, I'm going through the community, and I'm also, so it's just another feed. Because to go through all my messages, it's just too time consuming as far as if people send me individual stuff. Kind of hilarious. Pixel artwork, kind of hilarious. Human Boy, thank you. Congrats on 300. John Bezold. Wow, this was unexpected. Thanks for the shout out, Adrian. I still remember, I think we started a show with John Bezold maybe 50 or 100 shows ago. It's always a pleasure to watch your episodes, and congrats on 300. Always a delight to watch your take on the newest of the new. Thank you. Libro, thank you for the comments. Psychofuturist, thanks for putting me in episode 300. Such a nice place to be. Thanks for sharing the passion for pixels and color and movement. Great to discover your work, Psychofuturist. Santiago Izzacotl, great to hear from you. And thank you for the support for so long from very early on. I like this time you dive a bit deeper than normal. Maybe referring to the T.S. Eliot. Good to hear. Yeah, I try not to get too deep in the weeds, because you can lose a lot of, it's always this balance between making it still intellectually engaging, but not losing, the larger group or just casual watchers by going too deep in the weeds. So it's an interesting balance. I'm glad you enjoyed that. Joe Howell, thanks for shouting out Delicate Dance. Congrats on 300 shows. So glad this exists. Artist Journal exists. Such a valuable contribution. Well, I appreciate it. And Lucas Lejeune, great show. Thanks for the feature. This work didn't involve Illustrator. Right, so I'm still trying to figure out how Lucas makes his magical works here. This work didn't involve Illustrator, as the glyphs are made with Font Struct, which I've never heard of, which is maybe why I don't know, and animated in After Effects. So still using After Effects. So it's an actual font. Interesting. Nicholas Dietrich, the great pixel artist, the enigmatic pixel artist. Hey, congrats on 300. Brilliant show as always, and thanks so much for the mention. And I think that's it. And Dania, great to hear from Dania. Great to see Let's Glitch It, Cam, in your 300th episode. Thanks for the shout out. Absolutely. And just what a cool project that is. I mean, it's a delight to be able to show that out of this community here. Look at what's going on. And Lonewick, thank you. Here's to many more voyages on the pirate ship of the mind. Seba, thank you. Burku or Byram, thank you. Great to hear from you as well. And Agnes Evergrace, who we couldn't start. This is actually how it starts, this work here. Let me see if there's... Okay, we don't have volume on it, but this is what I was trying to show, which wasn't loading up. This welcome screen, which I thought was brilliant. So, and here again, we see all these XP elements in this kind of GLB format here. Very cool work. Here it is. Haha. Thank you, Agnes Evergrace. Pixel Lord, thank you. Little Cakes, great to hear from you, and thank you for all the contributions. Trippy Collector, Strange Thing. It's always a great part of the day to relax and watch the great works you find. Thank you, and thank you for the comment. Strange Thing is huge. Retro Manny, brilliant episode. Some make art while watching this. Last night I watched it while making dinner for me and my wife. Maybe a new ritual. Great topic, the entrepreneurial spirit. Yeah, I think so, right? Because I think we're all, again, it's this idea like being an artist is being an entrepreneur in most cases. Some people don't do that, but I'd say like 90%, let's say, it's like you're creating a business. Interestingly enough, it comes along a day before I progress into a very exciting new venture myself, and I don't believe in coincidences. We're all connected, moving in a similar general direction, in my humble opinion. Yeah, so I'm really excited about this discussion, as well as actually implementing it. And what's hilarious, and we're going to see this in a second, the airdrop that was mentioned in the community, like all of a sudden it's already paying off, like hilariously. Lily Illo, Finally, Artist Journal community is something I look forward to being a part of. Thank you so much for highlighting my work amongst so many beauties. Well, my absolute pleasure, Lily, and thank you for all the support. And Klaus, that's a lot of shows, and thank you, A Yoga to Life. I don't know if we can. Okay, we're almost done here. Klaus, A Yoga to Life, Secret Escape, Trilobite. I follow Trilobite. Art doesn't follow Trilobite. Art thought that was funny. For real, though, thanks for the feature. My pleasure, and really cool artists. Those are the Mario and the Sailor Moon, I believe. Jada, thanks for sharing. We did an installation for an audiovisual performance that we will mint soon on Zora, who does the lo-fi abstract works. I'm not sure if we may have one. And thank you, everybody. Katarina, and maybe this Ed Marola, Emmy Pixel, Juana Pedro, Saku, Macro G, Mitrai. And Macro has only 12 followers. And I was getting confused because Macro joined the community and kind of a newer entrant to X here. And the posts weren't showing up. And I thought there was something wrong that I was doing. I think it's because Macro is still a small account. And so X is basically kind of strangling that account until there's maybe 100 followers, I'm guessing. So give Matro G Matrai a follow. Cool artist there. The guy who did the seahorse. And Padu, thank you for the comments. So off we go here. And yes, we showed Agnes's work. I want to make sure we saw that there. And also Uxine we heard from. Thank you, Patrick Bateman, for collecting the Silkscreen Ux Vision Pro Max. So here I was discussing this. And so this was a joke. Pocobelli was joking with this one here, not sold yet, and this image from a movie, actually, and I did recognize it, kind of looked like American Psycho, maybe. Using acrylics with screen printing medium to extend drying time and some opacity, just a little break from Pixel Rush, hear more. So here, and thank you, Uxine, for posting this, isn't this cool? Right? We see all the variations here, and again, you take one design, but then you start implementing the randomness of color. Again, it's very exciting. And look at the nice border here. And then each becomes a unique. And then maybe you don't put the happy face or it didn't show up on that one. Here it's higher, here it's lower. Working with layers a little bit. You just see the potential of working with digital and physical here, don't you? I mean, you see not just the art potential. You see the art potential, but also the market, the business potential. Look at all these works from one work, and it's like Warhol. You can make like 700 of these things, and they could all be different and collectible. It's an Uxine, right? So really rad from Uxine there. And also, I have to give a big shout out to Ile. Mech.txt, the mega recap Ile is now back on Artist Journal number 300. Love it. And of course, Ile was instrumental in helping build the audience for this show for about 100 episodes, it feels like, or at least like several, dedicated a huge amount of time to doing this, to putting in basically timestamps. And I should actually copy this and put it into the YouTube. Because this works, and because people say, hey, what about timestamps? We had timestamps for about, maybe 80, 100 episodes by Ile. Huge amount of time, was doing it for free, and look at all of this, and it just really helped turbocharge this channel in terms of just bringing awareness in the space. Look at everything she did with this hour 40-minute episode here. We're going to have another hour 40-minute if I don't speed up here. So big shout out to Ile and also to mech.txt. But, big shout out to Ile. If you want to ever, support someone who's great in the community, send Ile some art. And she's extraordinarily generous with her own art as well, which is beautiful. Let's continue here. This is the community. So again, and I think if we get an up... So I started this last episode here. I created the community. I wasn't sure if it was working at first, but here, I mean, this is exactly what I hope for. Like, share anything that's interesting or cool, and then, or you think that maybe needs to be on the show, or just something you find interesting. Like, I put a couple of links here. Here's Ellie Lowe putting their work. B, posting, this is super interesting. Scans of cellophane paper, so just very cool. And then here, Chrome Void, if you have minted your art on ETH, please check the Optimism airdrop. So I did. This is where I heard about it. And it actually worked out here. I did a search on Optimism, and be very careful where you connect to. But I mean, that turned into $2,000, and I just lost, $5,000, a Bitcoin puppet, and then the airdrop that came right after I accidentally, I think, listed it for nothing. You have to be very careful on Magic Eden with listing. I think I was messing around there, and before you know it, so all to say this is crypto, and crypto is awesome. I think it was Neutro was saying like this, who's in Latin America there, imagine getting $2,000 when you live in Latin America and, where like US, like that's real money. That's real money anywhere in the world. Right? And why? For, being an artist who minted on Ethereum. Now, not everybody gets this, and there's probably different kinds. You do need to claim it, and not everybody's going to get this, but if you've been on Zora, you may have some luck here. So just kind of another reason to be multi-chain at the end of the day, one could argue. So thank you, Chrome, for pointing that out. That was a nice way to start the day. Austin, we're going to actually look at this work here. It's very interesting, too. This community page is great. Being an avid gallery patron with the idea of viewing art in a social setting, I've been looking into the idea of how digital displays can form and constrain the work that is shown on them. I'm looking forward to making more work that challenges these constraints and boundaries, which was really helpful. Because here it looks like a 16 by 9, so you see why this work is being constrained here. So we're going to take a closer look later this show. Also, free generative art from Zancan, from Luke 500. So I am just thrilled with how this is going. This is a free mint on Base plus gas, so get Zancan for $2.50, courtesy of Luke 500. This is awesome, and we're going to look at this work here from Simulacro. I posted a couple of links, Jeff Koons NFT project and B with a few more. So I'm absolutely just delighted, and some beautiful works here also posted by B and everybody. So thank you, everybody, for contributing to this. We got a beautiful start here and everything. You can look at Jean-Michel Basquiat spray painting here and Horo Mox. Thank you. This is really just super awesome. Lord Misfit. So yeah, and it's just, if you're looking for a place for your work to be seen, I think we're going to look at this one too. I can't put everything, but here's a start, right? And Human Boy, thank you for getting things started on this page here. So just too much fun. So there was an airdrop, and it's for real. I did pick it up this morning, so do check into that on Optimism. So do your research. Don't connect to just any wallet. See what you're doing. Maybe you qualify. Pretty amazing. Crypto. It's a pretty wild ride, isn't it? So yeah, recouping some of my losses from like less than a week ago. Pretty wild. Leonidas, and just on that whole front, who is, of course, the great Ordinals. Leonidas, of course, is the guy from the 300, right? I haven't seen the movie, but of course... what is it? The battle? Is it the Battle of Marathon, where we get the word marathon, where the guy running back saying victory, victory, Nike, right? Running back. This is Herodotus. Here, that's where you'll find this story. Okay, that's where it's often called. It's called the Histories here, but it's often called. The Persian Wars, okay? So, and that's really why we kind of have, that battle was incredibly important. So, as far as the West surviving and Athens surviving, and that guy running back, he was saying victory to warn them because the Persians were going to come around and probably attack Athens. So once they saw that they were ready, the Athenians were ready, thanks to that marathon runner, who died after saying Nike, the Persians just sailed off, as far as I remember the story. So, okay, so that's Leonidas, if you're wondering where the spirit of this tweeting is coming from. The Ethereum ecosystem airdropped $25 billion to itself during the last cycle. Now it's Bitcoin's turn. Ordinal airdrop season has arrived. So, there's a lot of airdrops going on, as we just saw with this optimism one. Don't assume this is going to last forever. This could be a really unique cycle here in the next year. So do your research and do what you can to get some free money, because it could change your life. So when Leonidas says this, take note is sort of my take on this. Another tweet, the next 2 years on Bitcoin will be legendary. We're going to do what Ethereum took 10 years to accomplish, so big words, in only 2 years, but on a blockchain that's 3 times larger. Plus, we know what works and what doesn't, so we get to skip the white paper ICO phase. Strap in. So again, if they're skipping the ICO phase, does that mean airdrops, right? So do your research. Don't miss this opportunity is sort of what I am telling myself. Yuri J, some thoughts on aesthetics of digital and AI art with a beautiful work here by No Hygiene. Look at that. So Yuri here, I see a lot of art called digital or AI assisted, only because it was made with tools associated with it, but it would be better to call it traditional art created digitally with AI. And now one of two, a little confusing, the numbering here. This is the third. I want to focus on art that pretends to imitate oil painting with only reason that it looks fancy. The message you are trying to provide as an artist, I hope, with your work should be expressed directly through a medium you are using, not through imitating 500-year-old combinations of oil and pigments. It's an interesting point. And so maybe this is one of the reasons why Yuri really likes No Hygiene's work. I think there's room for both. And it's an interesting dialogue because all of a sudden it becomes simulations, right? Because I would argue, we see, I think, a Strange Thing who makes these beautiful kind of what you could say is AI oil paintings, right? And there's a lot of AI work that kind of simulates brushwork. And that's the key word here is simulation, because it does start to, come into that whole, simulacra simulation frame of mind and debate and discussion that we were having, 150 episodes ago or whatever. So, which we can come back to. So I'm not sure on a conceptual level if we should necessarily totally dismiss this idea. And some of the works on an aesthetic level, we're going to see more by Strange Thing. It's hard to just go, well, that's just copying painting. So this is, but I take the point. I think it's an interesting point. And I think the point is, and we see it in Yuri J's work, which is, in a sense, follow the logic of the contemporary tools. Don't necessarily use these modern AI art tools to redo these older ways of working. There's something to be said for the simulation of older works, especially when it's done incredibly well. But I take the point. Follow the logic of these tools and let's see what it creates. Don't be so tied to the past. So an interesting, provocative comment here. Of course, some artists have decent concepts that sound most likely like an excuse, but still I believe there are a few people truly passionate about this kind of paint-AI relationship. Analogy time, from Kandinsky's point and line to plain, part about what makes artwork strong. Some good fellows can imitate with violin all kind of songs like dog barking and receive tons of attention on TikTok and Instagram, but it's always better to listen to music. Right. Now, it's an interesting question. Because I sometimes make this point about Hockney using the iPad and the phone, that it's almost like using this incredible sampling device. It's like using a sampler. It's like playing violin with a sampler. Is sort of like, here Hockney's doing all these, using these paint tools, and then just using one app like brushes, which isn't even really made anymore, and then painting with it. And is that exploiting, the phone and the tablet to the max? I think that's where Yuri J is going with this. Again, I think there's room for both, because if you can because those works by Hockney are beautiful, right? But I do compare it to playing a violin with a sampler, okay? And I think that's what Yuri J is saying here. It is not the end of the world, of course. Making purely 100% digital AI art is not easy and boring to look at. We're dealing mostly with mixing traditional and digital approaches in different degrees, but at the end of the day, seeing something casually painted in Procreate or AI-assisted impressionistic exercise, ask yourself, where's the dog sound coming from? So it's an interesting, provocative point from Yuri J. I think an interesting addition to the conversation and worth saying. So again, the aesthetics matter, right? Like if it's beautiful, like for me, I can't dismiss, let's say, for example, Strange Thing. I just find it hard. It's too beautiful. And what does it mean? I find it very provocative. Also, in the sense that what does it mean when we have the flaking oil paint becoming so beautiful, more beautiful than you find on the Mona Lisa, where there's kind of like that nice flaking, the breaking oil paint, cracking oil, what does that mean? And so that is a provocative concept. So there's room for all of these discussions, kind of in my view. My 2 cents there. Santiago Ruao, we are on our way to Bosque Gracias, first a technical stop in San Carlos. So I keep hearing about this Bosque Gracias art residency. So here's Santiago Ruao. So this is in Argentina. And of course, there are so many artists in Argentina that this is pretty cool, right? Like, we have an artist residency, Bosque Gracias. We saw some of the cyanotype prints, and maybe, I'm not sure if this is Santiago or Bosque, but maybe an excuse. And here, look, the artist residency, you can look at all these people you can meet. Burst Sector, Gons, Lucas Ox, Jada, everybody here. And there's Neutro. Super cool. This was cool too. Turo, I was really impressed by having this, this is very traditional in a sense, a way of making art, which is putting kind of a brown or an orange, sometimes a gray, that's kind of like academic painting. And I think it's quite a powerful way to work, as you see here. I'm having a hard time finishing my paintings lately, but I'm still constant. Yeah, exactly. Like, I think the most important thing, and Sabato's mentioned this, and I say it too, don't even worry about what you're doing, if it's good or not. Just make sure that you're moving, that you have the pencil or the mouse, and that you're doing it, and something's going to start happening. Okay? If you still want to collect something, Zora has a free collection active, so you can still have fun while you wait. So, very cool. And again, if things aren't working out, you can always post the work in progress, which I'm saying almost as much to myself. So cool work there, Turo. Here's another work in progress by Tornado Rodriguez, who of course I follow. That is an X glitch when you load up a billion tabs like we have here today. So soon on Solana. So heads up, and cool. I love the kind of 3 colors here, the green, the blue, and the pink for this kind of underdrawing here. Looks like a great one. Love the composition, kind of landscape composition as well. Very cool. This is more mind-blowing videos from the OpenAI team. So here's just another example. This is AI video, which is the Sora. So pretty impressive, this kind of tiger made of flowers here. And then coming together, pretty amazing, isn't it? So, again, kind of stunning. This I thought was quite brilliant by the brilliant Santiago, fan of half-generated Midjourneys. So this is, of course, if you're on Midjourney and you're seeing it render, you get these kind of weird fuzzy images. This is while it's rendering, it shows you this. I think this is actually quite a pretty insightful little move by Santiago here, saying, hey, what about this? What about this? And this is why, again, this discussion here that we're having, this is a very, for me, a relevant, interesting discussion. Exactly. What about this? Great question. Santiago oil painting also. Nice little small oil painting with Santiago's abstract style there. Very cool, working across multiple mediums, different kinds of tools. Here's also Pixel Symphony. Taking a few detours along the way as I explore this algorithm further, it now allows for spiral fills of irregular polygons. Interesting. So it's filling it like a spiral. Working on a 10,000 cell iteration. For me, I just can never get enough of the pen plotters. So yeah, so I just almost show every pen plotter little video I see. And it's interesting. Again, what's cool is, you can imagine the digital is all perfect, but here, because of the bleeding and everything of the ink and the imperfections of physical reality, you start to get that randomness that we're seeing in the UX scene, right? Working physically. So there's a natural contrast or tension between digital and physical, which should be exploited, as far as I'm concerned, by digital artists. It's in a sense, not to overstate it, I probably am overstating it, but it feels foolish in my mind not to exploit this beautiful contrast. Go physical, right? So just more provocation. Here's Santiago Ruao, GM to all annotations in real life version. So of course we saw this here, and we were mentioning the asemic writing, I believe, like writing that doesn't necessarily mean anything. And here we see a physical, and it looks pretty nice. Looks like could work like a beautiful picture on the wall there. Beautiful, almost like poster-like. Spiegel's Maskinen. This week I will present my new 8x8x8 series in Paris with Stroop Gallery at Deep Art Fair. Interesting. Deep is dedicated to presenting leading artists and gallerists who work inside the intricate field of AI, digital, and NFT art. Interesting. They sound like a pretty cutting-edge gallery, so check that out. So Spiegel's, is doing very well at straddling the Web3 space, but also the gallery, kind of cutting-edge gallery space. Spiegel's is one, pay attention to Spiegel's, take note of how Spiegel's is doing things, doing very well. Forgive the post-Jim hair, my friends. Continuing on, Psycho. There was a signage exhibition in Shibuya crossing in January. It was part of Shibuya event. Thank you so much for having me with many amazing artists. Refraction Dao and Jen Kip, music by Shuda. So here, just in case of copyright, I am going to silence the music, but here it looks like I see right there, we can see some of Psycho's work. That almost looks like Rinny Fish, but hard to say there. So all very cool, and again, that looks like Psycho on the right there. So getting out into the larger world there, let's continue. Also, so another show here, this is the Accelerationists, an International Digital Art Showcase, starting to all look pretty seriously. I think this is part of SXSW, Film and TV Festival. Danilo Zema, March 9th in Austin, Texas, and this super cool, looks like a Vapo cigarette machine thing, and then of course just making multiple, looks great on the poster, doesn't it? Very interesting, and moves continue to be made here. And here, John Cates. This is really interesting. This is a really good glitch art question. How did I glitch art in the 1990s? And you might be surprised to hear, I actually had a couple of friends, John Vaughn and Lady Gates. Maybe John Cates has actually heard of these people. In the late 90s, they were talking about glitch, and there's also glitch music. And I remember the glitch music, and I remember they were doing stuff with glitch art. I mean, again, way back then, that was in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. They're still in Saskatchewan. I believe John's in Regina, and which is the capital of Saskatchewan there. And, what's interesting is I never really got into glitch, and I think the reason was the music. Because the music would go off of the 4 on the floor, so it'd be like boom, 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 boom. And it just didn't resonate, the music, so I never really got into what was going on visually. Because I was very kind of music-centric, and I just wasn't buying it, the music side of it. It felt like an interesting, on an abstract level, but it just didn't kind of give me in a sense, the energy, the kind of the soul energy. It didn't move me, so to speak. So this is interesting, though. So I kind of missed the boat then on, but John Cates way back in the 90s here. Because people are talking about, we'll see in a second here, so some interesting early glitch art here. And here is John Cates working with, operating system desktops. This was radical, I would argue, at the time, stuff like this. Doing something like this and saying, this is art. That was radical and revolutionary, so props to John Cates there. And here's Sabato, 2014. You see how ahead John Cates was. 2014 was a watershed year for my art practice. I joined the Glitch Artists Collective on Facebook, where I met Sky, Donia, Drain, Tukes, John Cates, as well as Gabriel Coy, Kenneth Zapata, Ras Algave, Chepertum. So a lot of names we're familiar with here. James Usil, Neptiris, and Zushi, and many others. The Glitch Artist Collective was the first artist community I was ever a part of. And as someone who couldn't afford an art school MFA, GAC became almost like an art school. It inspired me to go beyond my photography glitches and learn about 3D modeling, processing scripts, neural networks, video game ROMs, and augmented reality. Everything I work with today. The fact that so many of us are here today in Web3 fills me with hope. And it is remarkable, isn't it? Like, I think that's more evidence that what we're doing here matters. The fact that many of us haven't given up on our journey, that we are still growing, still disrupting, still reaching new heights. Anyways, 10 years is a long time. Happy 10 years of Glitch, Sky. And here's Sky Goodman responding to Sky Goodman's tweet. Just realized 2024 is my 10-year anniversary of making glitch art, and also meeting Tukes, Let's Glitch at Drain Kane, Sabato, and John Cates. So isn't that interesting? So happy 10 years and even longer to the glitch art community there. Ed Marola, an Ace Bright session with secrets behind They Are Dreaming Us series. So I was really thrilled to see that Ed Marola has posted on the Pixel Network. So here, if you go to pixelnetwork.substack.com, I haven't put, I kind of trailed off in November, late November, early December, posting videos here. This is why it's kind of fun to collaborate sometimes, because now I'm like, I'm going to update this thing. In the Pixel Network, it's a fun idea. Like if people do streaming of any kind, like, if you're on, I think it's Behance, you can actually stream your iPad. If you can get that video or if you can embed it, feel free to send me a message and we can take a look and see, does this make sense here? Just a place to put all of the creativity, the video that's coming out. And of course, some of the videos from here, and then Ed's put out a few videos here of how he works. Incredibly valuable, so super cool there. Ed Marola, what if I were to record a live video showing the process behind my latest creations and spoilers for the next ones? And here it is. So just very,
studios.
And he often has like music in the background.
Start, okay. I finished this drawing another day. We can talk.
So they're very pleasant, these videos. So I can't wait to just look closer. So here we go, an hour in, we're finally at the art. Verbal Infusion Vase. This is also Ed Marola. And a pretty cool enigmatic work here from Ed Marola, kind of scaled big. They Are Dreaming Us, also on Zora. So going multi-chain again, 14 minted so far, just minted a few hours ago. Purple Infusion Ingrainment Mix, and they're a classic Ed vase, classic Ed colors here. Really nice page, by the way. So that's on Zora. And continuing on, delightfully small work here. Again, this is how I think you do stuff on ordinals, because as Rada pointed out very early on, transform nearest neighbor, we can make these things the size as large as we want, and they will retain their structure. These beautiful pixel artworks. Tire Raft is probably 200 pixels wide. And again, it does make you think of ordinals. Because ordinals, this is probably, I'd guess, maybe, if I had to guess, 30 kilobytes, maybe less. There's quite a few colors in here. I'm trying to make 2 kilobyte files for the series I'm working on for ordinals, which is quite a challenge, but I'm doing not bad. So anyways, just really cool work and delightfully small, once again. Not worry about scaling it up. An interesting decision. Like here, scaling it up, here not worrying about it. And I think that's, again, it's incredibly interesting. Sunset Valley, ME Pixel, so a nice landscape here. Well, we're on the pixel art front, and just a beautiful sunset here with a little, river going through it. This very nice scene here, almost reminiscent of those stars in the earlier, in our opening image there from LB an hour ago. Let's continue here. This very cool work from Emmy. And here, of course, a hilarious work, Laundry Day by Hasdrubal Waffle, who is playing with the bodybuilders as subject matter here. And here, the bodybuilders doing laundry. And so too hilarious here. And this, look at how beautiful the sky is here. Again, using, kids programs, stuff found on the internet as far as programs, probably also not layering, right? So there's a benefit to not, just putting the layer underneath, something I often do, because you can start to just have your own rendition. It kind of makes it more originally yours, which has its own effect. You see the big eyeball there. So very interesting, beautiful work. Already an offer by Daedalus Zeus of 0.05, which is $150. Hasdrubal Waffle, I was looking, I think he's already sold, here it is, a quarter of an ETH, which is 800, how much is that? 30 divided by 4, like $750. Not bad. And thank you for that opening one. So just, and this brilliant lawnmower and the skating. These should hang in the same room as far as I'm concerned. And here's some other work. Cedar Plank, a little alpha for those watching an hour in on what Hasdrubal Waffle is up to. Here is other work. I believe these are going to be put on Zora, because here, one suspects the same artist. Here is a Zora account here, or a link to Zora, and also other works here by the great Hasdrubal Waffle. That almost looks like He-Man figures there. And just never get tired of Hasdrubal Waffle's edgy work here. And this is awesome too, just making it look so easy and fun and beautiful. So isn't that great? Speaking of beautiful, Overwhelm, this is by Uxine. Very interesting work here. This is an edition of 11. Accepted offers of over 69, I think, so nice take here. Maybe 800, 750 Tez, so probably $800, maybe a little more. And you gotta love this, again, leaving things a little, what I call rough, but as my friend corrects me rightly, loose. Leaving the path, leaving the trail a little bit, beautifully painted. Uxine is starting to add a few more colors. And I thought the matchstick was quite beautiful too, just from a compositional point of view and just a combination. And then the whole concept, which is a match case that says burnout, fatigue and worry. So, and then here, nice composition. And here we even have a little shadow here for good measure. And of course, maybe speaking to a kind of digital, it's kind of easy to do, a digital burnout, overwhelm, or being digitally overwhelmed, perhaps. Now 142 Tezos on secondary. Continuing on, another very interesting post here, local area network. So playing with these 45-degree angles, I think they're 45, maybe not actually. This looks 45, but playing with that kind of perspective, that computer graphics perspective, I like to call it here. And here, these kind of smiles exiting the screen here, and then it, almost reaching this computer, and then here it's a sad face. Pretty funny. Really nicely done, and I love the title. This is Fornax Void. The obelisk is lighting up, so who makes, quite a revolutionary artist here on Tezos. Let's take a look. So always beautiful music. I think it was Tradscape and maybe Haiti Rockette's collection where I discovered Fornax Void. A lot of people had a lot of great things to say. A lot of people have been influenced by Fornax Void. And of course, that one's called Shepherd, and it's 16 Tezos, only an edition of 10. These things do sell out. And remember that Tezos work, and of course these wonderful kind of enigmatic castle works. And remember that one. Super interesting artist. Again, playing with video game imagery and tropes and turning it into art. Really interesting artist. Check that out. Here is Isolationist. Just one of the 10,000 works I didn't show the world. I can relate. I think maybe I'll start posting more of just works works in progress. That is inspiring Isolationist, and beautiful work, by the way. And you got to love just like the looseness, so to speak, around almost like pencil work there being erased, and these great fingers here. Really nice piece. Here's Bazaya, Bohemia. Interesting piece here with Bohemia written across, and then kind of a classic, let me make this bigger here, edition of 10 for 10 Tezos each, and kind of feels like a pop culture work, but you never know, with an elderly or older woman who's cool with the nose ring and the pink glasses and the little tattoo, and 1905, and the Adidas jersey there. Very cool, with maybe an Atlanta North American soccer jersey there, maybe. So Bohemia, 10 Tezos, 5 gone. Pretty nice collector base there. Uxine, Mikey Wilson, Strano, District 468, and JPL 4. Just listed. The Vanguard burner phone. So Waistband Gold Minovich. And here we see a reference to, so a burner phone, but kind of playing with the retro, old school, big phones that you'll find in the kind of late 80s when cell phones started, and classic cigarette with Vanguard. The discrete nature of our business means we require the latest in modern technology to stay ahead of the time. This is only a Tezos 50 edition of 10, and there are 4 gone, so nice work there. Cool David Bowie work by Detaste, David Bowie at the International Space Station. So that is pretty cool. I think Bowie would appreciate this. And here we see a 1970s Bowie and the International Space Station in the background. Cool combination. And I kind of like the negative space on Bowie's body and in the hair. So nice work from Detaste. This is an auction, kind of back to art that people relate to, right? It doesn't hurt. If you're a Bowie fan, all of a sudden you might be interested, right? So it doesn't hurt to make, that common vocabulary of images, of iconography. There's a power in it. Anyways, 16 Tezos at auction, and District 468 with the highest bid so far. Mumbleboy Orientation. We're going to have to speed up a little bit here. Changing the color scheme around a little bit. This is interesting. Continuing to play around a little bit from Mumbleboy. Dark background here. Interesting, almost a little bit different here in whatever's going on here. So interesting to see how, like, the photography, again, we're back to the car, and there's a bike with an interesting little fill-in. There seems to be a lot of work that goes into these. Edition of 3 for only 4 Tezos. I think we have another one. Another one with this interesting border here, how to play. This is edition of 2 for 8 Tezos. And here, again, more experimentation here. This one's a little more colorful. And playing, again, mixing like painting, digital painting, and collage, and what seems to be kind of almost physical, and maybe even scissors. I wonder if scissors are in here a little bit, but also digital selection and everything. Just more interesting work from Mumbleboy. And continuing on, Nuv 1914 with what looks like a duck and a baby duck, Petitos. Not sure what that means. Wait for maybe PP Universal can translate that. Look at this greatness. And even cut off, repeated. The brave Nuv 1914. Look at the brave, this hero here. Aesthetic, pushing the boundaries of aesthetics here. Just a wonderful artist here. And even just this bizarre, almost like a transform tool, very interesting work. Edition of 1, Illusional picks it up for 9 Tezos. And this beautiful work here by Martin Bruce. I'm still wishing that Zora would put a maximize button so we could have this full screen here. Look at how beautiful this is. Moonworm. So kind of a moon, kind of a worm, and kind of playing with that repetition, very digital work here. And even this kind of, see how the gradient changes, beautiful work here by already 23 minted in the first day here by Martin Bruce. So getting a great start here. And, like minting on Zora, probably it's probably, a good time to do it in terms of Ethereum being at 3K. You're probably bringing in a little bit more money, I'm assuming, through just the whole process there. Spider Candle also. Now, this one was burned. I thought this was a pretty interesting piece. Oil on canvas. I thought that was interesting, too. This is the one I meant to show last episode, and here we see what looks like taking a oil on canvas work and applying, some sort of, video processing to it and reawakening this work as a digital work, as a kind of natively digital work, now that this process has been applied to it. Spider Candle, very interesting work from Martin Bruce, and this could hang in the same room, I think. Rustic digital art. Playing with noise here, interestingly, and we see kind of a Pac-Man. It's almost like the work was made, and then it was like super processed, perhaps, through kind of a noise filter here. And again, playing with Pac-Man, video game imagery, speeding, edition of 1 sold, 14 Tezos to Mikey Wilson. And here, this could also hang in the same show, Walk. 1022, again, appears to be September 11th here, even just the color scheme. With this, what's turning into an epic series here of each minute of that fateful day for those that are old enough to remember. That was a big day. I'll never forget that day. So here, again, in applying this kind of noise filter, turning it into this kind of digital impressionism, interestingly. Continuing on, Cider, who signs the work. I love it. A beautiful Cider signature here, Cider 2024. Kind of looks like an abstract, but I'm never sure. This may be something else. So anyways, just a beautifully textured work with this wonderful kind of margin here, almost kind of torn out here. What does it say? Sunny side up. It's an egg. It's an egg. That is beautiful. Have you ever seen an egg like this? I haven't. Beautiful work here, Cider. Fried, crisp, soft. A play of distortion with digital illustration and collage. Sunny side up. Brilliant and beautiful from Cider. And we've seen these other two works on Twitter, but they have been posted. So I thought we would show them. Just posted. She's a little shy. So maybe a dog here or a couple of dogs. And so looking great here with these beautiful edges, almost, selected out edges here. And this looks abstract, but consumption. Maybe it's something. Often it's representational, but really riding the line between representation and abstraction, isn't it? Again, beautiful textures. We've seen this work before, so now it's minted, though. Continuing on, just a few more by Cider, some portraits that were posted. These might be older, but just to give you a sense of Cider's, dexterity, really. Again, going, I think, from physical, as we discussed in the space with Cider, which is really worth a listen, going from digital to physical and back to great effect. And there's great Batman. Again, when you playing with shared vocabulary, right? Shared visual vocabulary. So you relate to it, and maybe you want the Batman one because you like Batman, right? So it's always interesting how the collecting mind works here. Zoom with another really cool work here. This feels like it's turning into more than just experimental random JPEGs. This is called The Fool. And, again, thinking of Alan Moore here, and look at how beautiful this is. I believe this is digital. I believe, but I'm not actually positive. It's, just like it's getting hard to tell what's AI and what's not, it's also getting hard to tell what's just, is this a digital work? It's hard to tell. I assume it is because it's so beautifully done that it makes you think, well, maybe, you'd have to turn off certain layers and try different things and you just keep all the good parts. One of the advantages of digital art, you can, turn off layers, right? A major benefit. You can also do undo, the magic of undo, right? So again, just beautiful work though from Zoom. Love even just the pink on the white, but again, beautiful textures. So whatever's going on here, it seems to be working. Selling 3 Tezos each, edition of 12. The Fool, great title. Here's Denise Sanchez. So more, we've been looking at Denise's works the last couple of shows here. So another abstract here and just, using a lot of black and white and just a little bit of color. These look like they are physicals, space stenographies, acrylic and pencil on paper. So interesting combination here, and I think we have a few. So here are some close-ups here of what Denise is working on. So interesting, almost using acrylic like in a very light, almost like a watercolor there. And also some pencil, nice combination. Very cool there. And here, I knew it was Santiago by the delay in it loading, 12,000 by 6,000, 7,000 pixels here. Let's do a full screen if we can. And we're seeing this kind of new approach here to, Santiago's abstracts here. We'll see if we can load. Look at that. Look at how much is going on here. So there is AI in here. Look at that. I mean, this is quite something. There's a lot of information in here, isn't there? This is quite something. And then we'll go back to zoom out. I mean, wow. That's pretty epic. I didn't realize it was to that degree. PNG art made with collage and AI. Very, very, very interesting. Jada is on exchange.art, infinite place, reserve of half a sol for these beautiful experimental abstract, pixelated abstracts. I think it should be movie. Is it? Maybe it's a static. Is this a JPEG? It is a JPEG. So it's a static work here. Because often Jada works so beautiful, kind of dragged lines up here, often and on the sides and at the bottom. Beautiful work. And here, Contemporary Mobile. This is by Muji. And check this out. And just more beautiful shimmering gradients here in this kind of like almost like a retro. It feels like a little bit like a retro phone, kind of hard to tell. And then here you see what looks like maybe an internet connection or power being illustrated here by these gradients. Again, great sense for color. And there's the Tezos, TZ, one assumes for Tezos, and this great green. Nice patterning on the side too. And what is going on here? This one was burned. So there may be a newer one. This is a collaboration between Muji and Braun, who we started the last episode with, that triptych at the start. Artificial sight. So Braun doing, of course, the work in the inside here. Edition of 20 for 15 Tezos. And so cool collaboration. Kind of smart putting Braun in the screens here. Again, really beautiful colors there. And going for 15 Tezos, edition of 20. And I think 9 are sold, or 8 are sold. Continuing on, right-click, Brain Dead. So here, again, playing with these kind of user interfaces. This kind of looks like, some sort of video game thing. This looks like a calculator. This almost looks like a Winamp thing, but physical. Just interesting. Maybe you got like an iPod in here. Very interesting piece here. Post, various gadgets. Yeah, exactly. From Brain Dead, braindead.gif. Here is GloomTube, Anatomy of Bad Decisions, hilarious. So here, as you see, the liver is suffering and the lungs are black from the smoking, and here is the body, and here is the gravesite. End result, page 55,000, Anatomy of Bad Decisions, and here hitting their head. So almost doing the dissection, find out what happened to this person who is now passed on. Cool work from GloomTube. 10 Tezos, and this is an edition of 15, and there are still some left here. There are still 8 left on primary. And here's Uyo66 Dolores, the secretary. So I think this is still playing with, if I'm not mistaken, this 3D. So I assume if you put on like these traditional red and blue glasses, 3D glasses, I assume this goes 3D. Pretty interesting. This was burned. There may be a new one. And here's another one, Shuriken. And this is an edition of 6. And this was just transferred. And here, we'll see if this works here. And again, you see that kind of red and blue 3D look. So interesting work there from Uyo. Interesting piece here too with some kind of a retro Casio here. And a Rolex, interestingly. Casio's notoriously kind of low price. I lost my Casio. It got lost in the mail. I left it in Canada, and it disappeared in the mail. Rolex. So anyways, here is the juxtaposition here. This is on Foundation timepiece for 0.11 from Color. Nice piece, and I'm not sure if I've heard of Color before, so cool artists there. Here's Turkarak, Audience. Another interesting piece here of, kids looking on at something, probably made in Procreate, one assumes, kind of painterly, kind of a looser Turkarak style. And here's Seba Sestaro, the swimmers, soon on Foundation. So a little preview here from Seba. Interesting colors and just interesting everything. Quite a few people in this piece. Playing with swimming. And here is Olivera Durdovic, Contempt. So interesting minimal piece here. Kind of and I assume digital painting. Kind of looks like a digital painting, but, using texture and everything. I assume Procreate, but I'm not positive on that. So interesting, beautifully painted here. Kind of has a watercolor feeling to it. Feels like watercolor paper, doesn't it? But then when you see the edges here, you think, okay, that's definitely digital. Very interesting. And then you get the flower and everything. Cool piece. So this is on Object, 25 Tezos edition of 1. Continuing on, RJ with a few more here. Rage, after William Adolphe Bouguereau, Dante and Virgil in Hell. I just finished actually yesterday. Actually, it was Monday. Today's Wednesday. I finished Monday. Right before the show, I finished The Inferno. So this speaks to me. Now I'll do the Purgatorio next here. So anyways, it's a very visual work, so it's not surprising that Bouguereau, who I think was a pre-Raphaelite, if I'm not mistaken, so it's not surprising that they would tackle, and here almost kind of a sentimental structure here from Bouguereau, with, I guess, Virgil, who had the laurels, the poet's laurels? Interesting question, isn't it? I would guess Virgil, because it comes from the Roman Empire. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. Now, this is Rage, so yeah, the violent. Interesting. So this is in one of the earlier circles, maybe the third or the fourth circle, and then an interesting red backdrop with this kind of green and black computer screen, Apple IIe kind of feel. Outlines here, cool pastiche. We got a few. Playing with these tropes here, these colors. Regret. This is after Ilya Repin, Ivan the Terrible, and his son Ivan, interestingly. So interesting piece. Maybe that's Blood. And here's another one, edition of 6. Artemisia Gentileschi, Judith Slane Holofernes, who is getting a lot more attention in the last few years, is a major artist here, kind of around the time of Caravaggio and kind of in the tradition of Caravaggio. Of course, very famous painting, Power. Of course, almost all of us will recognize this work. It's hard to forget this image when you see it, the original. So here, RJ does a pastiche of it, of this very violent image. And here, of course, the Laocoon, which you can find, I think, the Roman copy in the Vatican. I don't know if they have the original. After Aegisander, Athenodorus, and Polydorus, Laocoon and his sons. Yeah, 27. So exactly. I think this is a Roman copy. And you'll find it in a very special place in the Vatican where they have 4 sculptures in each corner, this kind of outdoor kind of courtyard area. And yeah, incredibly famous work. I think they found it in the Renaissance, interestingly. And I think it had a huge impact on Michelangelo. And so here it gets the treatment by RJ, Terror. Interesting title. And of course, as far as the actual, what is the sculpture about? This sculpture here, now, I think this is when if I'm not mistaken, because there's Cassandra, who is the soothsayer, I think, who is saying, who is concerned, I think, about the Trojan horse coming into Troy, right? And I thought also, wasn't this we can look this up next show maybe, because I thought that also this work here is about Laocoon giving a warning, and then fate had to do its thing. Things had to work out a certain way. So Zeus sent out this snake to kill and to basically silence Laocoon and his sons so that his warnings weren't heard, like this sort of thing. Well, let's go back to that. Let's try and remember for next episode. Van Gogh, Skull of a Skeleton with a Burning Cigarette, another famous work here. Gets the RJ treatment here. Really nice outlines here. And I like the cigarette with the gray there, Satisfaction. I like how the titles are being changed here too. Pride. Alexander Cabanel, The Fallen Angel. So RJ putting out a ton of work here, and it's looking great. And again, this has kind of a pre-Raphaelite feel, 1847, probably around the right time. Continuing on, Zoxo with quite a different work here. Kind of doing a little bit of digital painting here, seemingly, with an old camera. doing these Polaroids. Zoxo Instant, because of course Zoxo I thought did all the video game work. Yeah. So interesting new direction here, perhaps, or maybe a return to an older direction. So very interesting. Zoxo is an incredibly interesting artist with these great. I'd love to pick up one of these one-of-ones of Zoxo's kind of video game works. Hush Up and Accept My Moolah. So here's Rada up to something here and there. And so this is 42 Tezos and 7 Tezos cents, edition of 27. So you always got to wonder what Rada's up to here. There may be more to it than this work here. And this is, of course, playing off of kind of a pastiche of The Simpsons here and a meme, but here getting a rat treatment. And so a beautifully pixelated, kind of hard-edged work here and nice animation by Rada. Hush Up and Accept My Moolah. So people are, yeah, so could be promising, or maybe this is just the work by itself. You don't know. But remember this, this work here. So there's, yeah, so check out Rada's page. He's up to stuff. Check out his feed. And big shout out to Rada, the great artist there that brought so many of us onto this blockchain. Chaz, Contra. I'm not sure if we looked at this one. I don't think we did. Almost like a Winamp kind of feeling down there. And Contra, I think, being an older game here and kind of an older looking computer that I do not recognize here, and some cool kind of 90s speakers there, and almost like a Sony PlayStation controller. Epic return to classic arcade mayhem, edition of 15 for 3 Tezos each, and 4 are gone. Gogolitis picking one up. And here's Renato Marini. Cracked pixel art animation, conceptual art. We're going to have to speed up here, but pretty cool work here. So kind of a minimal pixel artwork with what looks like maybe lightning or a crack of some kind. Cracked. Interesting piece here. Almost like zoomed in, cracked part of a oil painting almost. Look at this color. Gogolitis once again with a color breakthrough. He's had several, okay? And look at this. This beautiful, beige in the background. And look at how well, and I think it's even cycling to slightly darker beige. And look at how well it's just vibing off of all of this beautiful animation and colors. Another just delight sign scroller. Maybe that will be, this is going to be on join.xyz. It is available for $0.25 of an ETH. It's part of the Screensavers collection. So this is a whole show. And maybe this is a video into this show. We're kind of already going an hour 27 here. And there it is. So there you can see it. Spiegel's Meskinen. I think Sky Goodman, I think I saw posting about it. And here is the show. We can't go, I'm going to speed through it here. Because we can't, we're at an hour 27 here. Wow, look at Gogolitis' work there. That is epic. Epic. Making it the size for a screen. So that's $0.25 of an ETH, which is now probably $750. So ETH doing well there. Very interesting. Now that's a screensaver. Indeed. Indeed, trippy. And here's Green Ginger, interestingly, experimenting on TikTok's UI. So you can see TikTok here in this pixel artwork by the duo Green Ginger in Sprite. Very interesting there. Speeding through Tom Bombattle, horse racing. And here we see another just really cool kind of minimal color, powerful work here by Tom Bombattle of horse racing. A couple of skeletons in there. Look at how big this is. Very cool piece. This is on Object, and it is now 8 Tezos and selling out at 5 Tezos each, edition of 15. Very beautiful work here by Slava3. I don't think we've seen this one. I could be wrong. Maybe this was posted on Twitter first. A really nice combination. We have the dithering, but we also have like interesting stuff going on in this Vision Pro. Different kinds of painting. Interesting movement with the GIF here. And then we have a 404 unknown and even a little bit of ASCII. So interesting layering going on with Slava 3, pushing things, pushing the boundaries. Here's Austin, Jeremy Austin, Confined Skull. So confined in the 1080 by 1920, 3 frames. So here we see it here, a skull and then a little bit of color here. A little bit of yellow, a little bit of blue with this distorted skull. So very cool work from Jeremy Austin. 16 Tezos edition of 1. And here's braindead.gif again, minted February 9th. This was burned, but this is a physical work that is made into a GIF. Interesting hybrid here. Melting Heart. Ink on graph paper. Very cool there. So that is burned, though. Look at this gorgeous work by Sean Luke. Orb harvesting. Just beautiful. 66 frames. 100 Tezos each. And let's see, it's all sold out. All sold out. Fake Whale Gallery. Through Fake Whale Gallery, interestingly. Oh, sorry, at 33 Tezos each. And now at 100 Tezos on secondary. Beautiful, beautiful work here. Let's see if we can... There we go. So looking good there. Feels with a post. How are we doing here? Usually getting tens of thousands of views. This was just posted before I started this. 11,000 views already. And here is Feels with more kind of a real pioneer of the animated abstract art genre there. Louise Andre Gamma with some more fractals, keeping it interesting here, and beautiful colors here. Interesting composition, probably a fractal-like composition, so pretty interesting work there. As we speed through here, here is Ranixtier. Sun's out finally, indeed, and here, almost looking like Windows-type colors, doesn't it? Like Windows XP, almost, if you had green instead of the pink. Hard to say. A minimal work here from Ranixtier, part of, I think, a new series. Strano Elevated Limited Series coming up, one of ones on ETH. So interesting piece here. Kind of looks like a cityscape with some cool animations, a lot of texture from Strano. Here's Kyle Flemmer, another space work here, which is interesting. Fellow Traveler, Low Earth Orbit. I like the speed. I like this kind of slow speed here. And remember we saw the Venus work? Now we see another kind of low orbiting, really interesting kind of pixel art and space tend to go pretty well together. Almost like Russian writing here. You think of like the space race in the 1950s. Very interesting work here. Edition of 5, it looks like it is sold out. Continuing on, Glitchtown Arcade, Dark Clowns, playing with, I think, Mario Brothers here. Maybe it's something different. Kind of looks like Mario, but maybe replaced with something else. Not sure. Just some beautiful glitching, though, isn't it? So Dark Clowns, this is transferred, probably to previous collectors. And here on 01. So Silva Santus posting on 01. I'm sure they appreciate that. We haven't seen too much from 01 recently. And they are all collected, interestingly. So 01's still going down, interestingly. 33, so don't ignore 01. That is cool. So here, I'm not sure if there should be, I think this is supposed to play. Here we go. So here, another glitch ROM from Silva Santus here. Almost like, looks like a beach here. Cool work. Great to see Silva Santus again. François Gamma with a couple of really interesting works here, playing again with the eternal subject matter of the person walking. And here we see it made of different shapes. And this was also really cool too. H-Stairs by François Gamma with this kind of geometric shape here going up and down the stairs, and the shadow seeming to change the stairs along the way. Very interesting work there. Cool title. Edition of 30. And 2 sold at 3 Tezos so far. Here's Lucas Lejeune. So what I do remember, and what I do assume, is After Effects is involved in this at some point. Can't remember, what was it called? Font something? Not sure if that was used in this one. But I do know it's a pretty cool looking animated abstract in black and white. Kind of has a vector feeling to it. Tower grid, interesting angle there on the perspective. 15 Tezos, edition of 5. And here is B166ER. Kind of looks like a Mo SHIT work. Yeah, exactly. So you wonder if this is another account by Mo, perhaps. Interesting piece here. Interesting experimentation. Continuing on, here is Human Boy with some interesting experimentation too. Made in Midjourney. So this is actually AI. I didn't realize that. Edited in GIMP, Dusk. So cool work here from Human Boy as we see up close. Wow. This was, so I guess starting the composition in Midjourney and then maybe giving it some processing that kind of refine, because it does look like it's got a layer in GIMP. So interesting. 1 of 1 for 50 Tezos from Human Boy. Here is Ellie Lowe, and shout out to Ellie Lowe. So the haunting nature of working in a cubicle, maybe at night here, Trashbag 25, digital synths, hand paint, and photo scan textures, manual modeling and rigging, digitizing of VHS glitches, natural pain, layering, etc. This is an edition of 6, and it looks like all the primaries are gone. There may be a few left if you put in an offer. Cool work there, Trashbag, notable trash artists there. Ranix Deer and DJ Kiro with a couple of interesting works here. Control. I don't know if this was burned. I see 0 additions here, but really nice glitch. Cool color here. Nice and kind of minimal. This one was burned. I don't know if there's a new one, and they seem to pair with this release, which was also burned. So not sure if they were re-released here, but pretty cool work in a great combo there, Kiro and Ranix Deer. Cool titles, cool use of text. Here is Kiro, 0.04 ETH, and this was minted 5 days ago. I'm not sure if we looked at this one, actually. I don't think so. I don't remember this big pixelation in the back. Interesting piece here. Few interesting works by Kiro. So that first one was on Object. This is on Foundation. And then we have a solo work by Kiro here as well, Lego. And we see here kind of more of a geometric kind of work here. And another one of these animated abstracts almost has a bit of a Tetris feel to it. Interesting text here. This is a Tezos 50 edition of 5. And Kiro message, he got the airdrop, interestingly. So do check that. And if you don't get it, it was interesting. Like I have 2 wallets that I do art stuff on. I only got it on one of the wallets. So interestingly. So it's not necessarily the easiest airdrop to get, but people are getting it. So something to check out. The Optimism airdrop. DeSalter, do you hear the call? And there are a ton more, I think, coming in the system. So don't feel too bad if you didn't get it, because I know what that's like too. Definitely know that. Do you hear the call? DeSalter is breaching the veil on Ethereum and Tezos. So kind of an interesting series here, Phantasms. So this looks like it's going to be multi-chain, interestingly. VHS, CRT captured, sliced and diced. Each phantom is a digital seance, summoning long dead spirits to glitchy new cross-chain worlds. So interesting. 10% going to the Twitter. So just interesting from DeSalter here. Multi-chain on Foundation, and I assume Object there. This was posted, so I learned about Simulacro in the community there, and it was pretty cool. To cover a branch, we're excited to share this video. It's a mix of many techniques of moving image and sound. So kind of coming in halfway through there, but pretty interesting piece. Look at that. So just very cool work, and great to discover, new people here as we zoom through this show. Klaus, composition 146. So a couple more from Klaus here, almost looking like some sort of medical heartbeat on that one. We're going to be at 200 here. Composition 144, 22 Tezos, and Klaus continues his journey here of compositions here. So very cool. Like how the line stops here. And kind of a nice color scheme there too. And here, another horse, JC Glitch Driver. This is from Ex-Mortal. So again, maybe JC standing for John Cates, perhaps, who I think started the horse trading. So again, more horse themed work here in Cowboys. Here's Somfe, St. Spectra's Vision. Cool work from, I can't believe this show, I am going to shorten it to like an hour 20, or at least even an hour would be perfect. So here's Somfe. There's so much art that comes out, though, it's very hard. So very cool work here from Somfei. Continuing on the skeleton theme, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful work by Bosque Gracias, shaking hands. And look at that. So what Bosque said, a couple of shows ago is this is how the negatives are. Like, this isn't like some sort of post-coloring by Bosque, as far as I understand. I mean, look at this purple. And of course, we get this oil rig and the skeleton, with even the skeleton with a little bit of wiring in it. Just really cool. And again, the negatives themselves are beautiful, just like this mark making here. Gorgeous. And here, almost an unusual one in the sense that now overlapping here, flamingo landscape. So as we see here, and then you get this rich, rich blue. And, what are these? Are these flamingos or maybe palm trees? Not sure, maybe palm trees underwater, juxtaposed, overlapping. Look at that blue. So beautiful work from Bosque there, 10 Tezos, edition of 2. And here, just a gorgeous purple. Last Frames, edition of 2, 10 Tezos, and just give it a large. So all sorts of fascinating work here coming out from Bosque Gracias. Here is Ryev, and there actually, I have the, we'll see the name in a second here. I have a Twitter of Ruslan Vyaltsev, and thank you for the comment, Ruslan, to explain your name. Ruslan Vyaltsev. Really interesting work here, isn't it? What is this? Like, how is this? No information here. Don't gamble with your destiny, but pretty interesting piece here. Kind of looks like a little bit CGI, tempting to think maybe AI, the sketchbook style in terms of layout, almost like a slot machine with the bananas there and the number. Here's another one. I think this is the same artist. This is on Zora. So triple Ipster. And another very interesting piece here, kind of has a three-dimensional, seems to be using several softwares, doesn't it? And gorgeous color here too, nice texture and everything. 46 minted already on Zora. So nice work there, still available, open mint there. Wuhan Institute of Virology, stable diffusion and different textural inversions. Interesting from Scamra. Interesting subject matter. Very pop, contemporary iconography, something we can all relate to a certain degree. This is part of a series called Abandoned Buildings, and I think Scamra actually had another one there. This cool subject. Abandoned Buildings, aluminum tube warehouse. So this is 3 Tezos edition of 20. Again, stable diffusion with different textual inversion. Here's Santiago again, Heaven as a Droid Justice. So this is an open edition using GIF, AI, and GIMP. So interesting use of dithering here and AI, interesting combo. And here's Okote, who of course is in the Global South series. Here's Old Warrior with this more kind of detailed painterly look on these last few. And of course you see these great houses here. And it kind of looks like Latin America, but with brighter colors, but hard to say. Actually, I've never been to Latin America. But my Bolivian girlfriend there, whenever we go to Greece, she's like, this reminds me of Latin America, especially Athens, interestingly. Anyways, this is the Global South series, and here's a new one by Okote with a person with a rifle here and a hat looking on with big red eyes, Old Warrior. Of course, this is Lily Illo with another really interesting composition here. This is going to be the longest episode ever, and I am going to try and fix that. There are too many posts here, but this is beautiful, and I simply have to show all these works. And here we have another one. Nice kind of doubling of the figure here, combining with abstract, just interesting piece. We have another one too, with this great, another experimental composition here. I love it. It looks like art, omnipresent. And here we see a beautiful green chair moving into the stool here, very painterly, and then different color in the background over here, almost looking like a different rendering. Maybe this is what the AI gave, all very interesting. Look at White Solitude, who has always been brilliant and at the forefront of kind of painterly mark making in AI. Noticeable from the very beginning. Very interesting work here. Nice piece with these kind of almost spectral horses here. We see the outline turning, you wonder if there's layering, but very painterly. Beautiful work from White Solitude called Marsh. And we're going to have the space is coming in less than an hour, 45 minutes, hilariously. Look at this strange thing. So GM in the clouds, like a beautiful, almost Raphael-like oil painting here. And look at those beautiful sneakers with the shimmering brightness of an oil painting and the fruit there and the figure lying in the lawn chair in this beautiful Renaissance scene with contemporary clothing. Just a beautiful, beautiful work by Strange Thing. Here's another one with almost looking like an oil spill. And then here, the oil is, the person here almost looking like a Virgin Mary type figure here, but in Nike clothing, cleaning with a sponge the wildlife here. Our duty to earth is its care, our lives entwined. Beautifully put. And here you see some Renaissance imagery just left in the background there. Interesting move. Very interesting move. Continuing on, Tukes with a very interesting work here. Experimental piece of AI, spiritual intoxication. Probably also the title made by AI. And we have a wonderful space with Tukes, a very philosophical artist. And again, don't forget, mentioned earlier here from the glitch scene. So interesting. And in our spaces that we did, I'm not sure if I've uploaded it yet, but I am working on recording them all and uploading them. Tukes explains how he sees AI, forgive the hair, how he sees AI as basically as an extension of glitch, as kind of in that kind of mode of operating, playing with softwares, manipulating them, doing things they shouldn't be doing. Glitch landscape with Charon crossing the sticks. I think Charon, 2014 sonification. So this is Kennick Zapata with an age-old, subject matter here. Interesting piece. So in the underworld here, crossing the sticks, and very cool work there. And here is Bigger, who I think is maybe Mo, but not sure. Kind of has a Mo SHIT feeling. Nothing Zero, 55 Tezos, edition 01. More interesting AI artwork here. All sorts of experimentation going on. Here's another one by B166ER. Bigger, maybe, or not sure what that's. Bibber. Edition of 133E is the name of the work. More experimental AI artwork. Starting to look like them. Mo and No Hygiene could probably put on a show. That would be super interesting. The Light 7, emerging using MProp's Open Studio. So this is, of course, Little Cakes. And a nice, almost photographic looking work here from Little Cakes. Look at that brain lighting up and the flower. Interesting piece, interesting title, and edition of 1 and selling for 25 Tezos to Digital Coleman. Nice work using MProps. And here's some physicals. You know what's funny? I didn't even remember to put the Instagram physicals that I found, and we're still at an hour 47. That's scary to me. So yeah, gonna be probably doing a little bit more cutting here. We had a lot to talk about at the start, though. I'm alive and I've got the ability to dissolve in the water. So this is from the Bosque Grazias art residency. So this is by Romana Poli. This is an edition of 3 for 5 Tezos. So very cool. We're seeing all sorts of work coming out of that residency here. Looking good. These look like physicals here. Spread and Connect. This is Lautra Mega Bosque Grazias. So we'll have a lot of physicals on the next one. All the ones that we forgot to put in this episode. That is insane. So all to say, beautiful, what looks like an acrylic or a watercolor here from the Bosque Grazias residency in Argentina, where it looks like a few people are working. This is 3 Tezos, edition of 7. Just more cool looking work. And that is your show, my friends. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you on the space in a short 45 minutes here. Again, thank you for joining me, and until next time, take care.